Hey everyone, so in this video I'm going to be talking about Malcom as well as Aaron, especially because there was an update to both of them in order to make them more effective in the current meta. Before we get into it, please don't forget to like and subscribe to my channel for more content and information. So to start off this video, we're just going to look at the updates that they made to both of these toons. So for Malcom, they've upgraded the leadership skill from 30% attack to 40% attack. Now, I have mixed feelings on this only because there have been past toons that probably should have done with an update that were not. A great example would be Jackson. Jackson was really the first melee attack lead that came out for free-to-play players, and he was just disappointing. Although he had the plus 40% attack that Malcom did not, he only had a very large bonus to AP when attacking, versus the past melee lead toon that is now available to everyone, Camilla, who has plus 40% attack and a huge bonus to AP when attacking. It just seems kind of ridiculous that they're able to change one toon, but they can't change the other toons that players have also given feedback on. The other toon that Scopely made a change to was Aaron, where apparently there was this unintended situation where his active cooldown was lined up with his rush. So when on defense, this means the AI would choose the rush over the active skill and delay the active for an extra turn. So instead, they ended up changing Aaron's active skill from being 3 turns to a 2-turn initial cooldown. So this would stagger it so that Aaron should be more effective, I believe. Now, from what I've seen so far, Aaron seems to be a decently solid toon. As a 5-star, the leadership skill, all fast and tough teammates get 30% HP and 30% defense, which makes him to be a pretty good 5-star leader. So if you were to use him in the 5-star arena on defense, you have a chance of making a fast rushing defense team, for example. His rush is very fast at 45 AP, deals a small amount of damage at 300% to 3 enemies. Those enemies get minus 25% attack, and then a flat minus 20 AP. So he's decent for controlling the enemy. The minus 25% attack isn't super effective in my opinion. It should be a higher percentage, like at least 30-35%, because 25% just isn't significant enough. Now, he doesn't have a bound weapon, which is pretty typical with most 5-stars. So you can do like an absolute defense weapon or an 8% AP weapon, which are both weapons that you actively see on a lot of different yellow toons. Now, when we're looking at the 6-star version of Aaron, he gets a bonus to his leadership skill, which is as expected, plus 40% HP and plus 40% defense to all fast and tough teammates. His rush goes up to 58 AP, but it's still pretty fast. It's 350% damage, but his attack stat is kind of low. It's on par with his HP, but he has very high defense. So this is a toon that I would add HP mods to kind of balance things out. His rush also still affects 3 toons. Those enemies get minus 25% attack for 3 turns and minus 20 AP. So his rush didn't really change very much. It's pretty much the same thing. I still don't think the minus 25% attack is very useful. Like when we have toons like Beta, for example, who can apply minus 85% attack, the minus 25% is almost comical. This is a toon here that has a rush that's almost on par regarding how fast it is with Aaron's, but I just find Beta to be more useful regarding his rush. I do believe that the minus 25% attack should have been upgraded from the 5-star to the 6-star, but it unfortunately stays the same at minus 25%. Now, the active skill is a little interesting. This is the active skill that got updated. See, the initial cooldown is turn 2. It has a 4-turn cooldown after that and 5 uses. Up to 3 enemies get impaired for 2 turns. Aaron and one other teammate get elusive for 2 turns. And then Aaron also gains plus 35% AP. Now, I'm not a huge fan of a plus 35% AP just because Aaron rushes so fast already, and the 35% AP is quite a low percentage when we look at how much AP he actually needs to rush. So it's a low flat amount, like 58 AP times 35% is only a 21 AP gain. So you'd be hit with exhaust pretty hard, like by Angel, it'd be 1500 maim damage, for example, but you'd only be gaining 21 AP, which is almost on par with Aaron just making one single attack. So that one attack with no AP leader, no AP on the weapon is 20 AP. So 21 AP is only a little bit better. And when we think about the other AP that needs to be made up for him to rush at 58 AP, that leaves 37 AP. I feel like he'd be better constructed if it was a flat 35 AP that he gained, because then you would only need 23 more AP in order to rush. I also don't like that elusive only goes to himself and one other toon. I feel like it should be at least 3 toons. When we go on to looking at Aaron's weapon, it's unique. It is different. It's 30% HP, a medium bonus to AP when attacking, and then when being attacked, a 25% chance for all teammates to gain, plus 15% bonus HP. Now, the bonus HP can be nice for straight damage, but it has no impact if you're being attacked by bleed, burn, or maim. This weapon also means that the toon has to be attacked, so if you're running a human shield, it's less likely that Aaron is going to be targeted. I would also say that this weapon, well, if Aaron is targeted, it just means the opponent can gain AP off of him unless he uses his elusive ability. And even at that, being a turn 2 elusive ability, that gives me 2 turns to gain AP off of attacking Aaron. I might give some bonus HP away, but if it lets me rush and do a defense down, attack up, and a power rush, then it doesn't make that much of a difference. Now, when we move on to Aaron as an S-Class toon, we don't expect a lot of changes. As I've mentioned in other videos, the S-Class toon is almost the exact same as the 6-star toon now, except just boosted stats. We see the leadership skill is still the same, we see the rush is still the same, but we do see an increase in attack, HP, and a huge increase in defense. He has 5,000 defense, which is a huge amount, 3,500 HP and 3,600 attack. So his attack and HP are still pretty balanced, and he still has a ridiculous amount of defense. He could be a very sturdy toon in my opinion, but you would definitely need to mod him or at least have some toons that can recover from burn, bleed, and maim, just because those things will ignore any defense that a toon has because it affects the toon's HP directly. I'm not really sure personally how I would use Aaron on my own teams. I am trying to get him as an S-Class, of course, and I think I might be able to use him on my tower defense team in War, but he is not going to be replacing my Mercer on my Mercer defense team. I was considering maybe using him as a support toon, just because he's a fast rushing toon. His active skill is pretty useful, or at least it could, in my opinion. The impair to 3 toons is pretty useful because it'll stop some rushes and stuff, and being a yellow toon, he could hold an 8% AP weapon or an absolute defense weapon. But the biggest downside with using a leader toon in a non-leader position is that they don't have a specialist skill, unless you're talking about the Survivors Club Yellow Andrea Shield, who is a leader and also a human shield. Let me know in the comments section below if you have any plans for using Aaron, or if you're just ignoring him entirely. I know a lot of people are focusing on mods as well as gear, and then maybe getting Aaron at the very end if I still have additional broken glass. But for me, I still think having an S-Class versus not having an S-Class opens up the world to different possibilities. You don't get to explore those possibilities if you don't have a toon, and being a free-to-play player myself, it's difficult to acquire S-Class toons. I've only recently started to expand what S-Class toons I have, and I've been very happy with my choices so far. With Aaron in particular, I feel like he's a toon that would take a lot of work to put into him to make him usable, because I wouldn't want to use this weapon. But because of the shortage in armory tokens to upgrade weapons to 5-star weapons and give them special stats and weapon swap, it's increasingly difficult to go with a toon that has a bound weapon, because if you don't like their special, you could be crafting for ages and waiting for ages on getting the armory tokens to make the weapon into exactly what you want it to be. And now, enough about Aaron, we're moving on to Malcom, who is the new Survivors Club toon. So his leadership skill as a 5-star is less than impressive in my opinion. Sporting only plus 20% attack and a large bonus to AP when attacking for melee toons, he doesn't even compare to my 5-star limited edition Negan, who gives plus 30% attack and a very large bonus to AP when attacking. It's a little sad to me that they didn't do more for Malcom even as a 5-star, because some players might have wanted to use him in the 5-star arena. Now I will say Malcom has a pretty interesting rush. So deal 300% damage to a line of enemies. Those enemies get disarm and daze for 2 turns. And it's only 45 AP. So as a 5-star, if I were to use him in the 5-star arena, this disarm to a line would be really effective because a lot of people are running windowless defense teams, meaning a team where if you attack them, you could end up being impaired, you could end up AP drained, you could end up stunned. There's just a lot of different status effects that could affect you, so by disarming their weapon, they wouldn't be able to apply that to you and you're just a more effective attacker. But the daze ability against other 5-star toons is completely wasted because no 5-stars have an active skill. If you wanted to use 5-star Malcom on your attack team against 6-stars, I would wish you a lot of luck just because he's a 5-star with low stats and he would get eaten alive in my opinion. Malcom thankfully does not have a bound weapon, so again an 8% AP weapon or an absolute defense weapon. As a 6-star, Malcom has decent stats. He has 2600 attack, 2200 defense, and about 2200 HP as well. So from that perspective, his attack should be a bit higher in my opinion, just to make up for the weak leadership skill of plus 30% as a 6-star. Malcom's rush, deal 400% damage now, but then still to a line of enemies, there's the disarm and daze for 2 turns. So it's 76 AP. I would have liked to see his AP be a little bit lower, especially considering his 5-star version was only 45 AP. So this is just a very big leap. And although he still gives a huge bonus to AP when attacking, the 30% attack is low. And that's why for the S-Class, they changed it to plus 40%. Now, if I wanted to make Malcom a truly desirable toon, it would have been nice if his 6-star was 40% attack and his S-Class was plus 50% attack, because we still have Priya, who is our range leader with plus 50% attack and a huge bonus to AP when attacking. Now, Malcom's active skill is pretty useful. Recover, normalize, and AP gain. So it's a turn 3, which is pretty slow. It's only a 2-turn cooldown and 10 uses. So it's just one other character recovers from normalize, and up to 2 teammates gain plus 20% AP. So the plus 20% AP is pretty low. We're used to seeing plus 35%, and only one other character recovering from normalize is incredibly weak. This should at least be 2 characters, because Princess, who is a very readily available character for many people, can normalize 3 characters. There just seems to be a lot to be desired out of Malcom, and I feel like even with the update, they've kind of missed the mark on where he could be as a toon in order to be truly desirable to the player base. So S-Class Malcom is not yet available in the game. The first Malcom is available for 25 comics in the museum, and the second one is said to be made available near the end of March, so we're kind of awaiting that, but at the same time with COVID-19 out, I expect that to be pushed back a bit. As we see in the S-Class toon, when it was initially released, we see that plus 30% attack, which is changed to plus 40%. Again, a plus 50% would have been marvelous, but there's nothing really we can do about that now. They did make the adjustment so it's not as weak as before, so I'm pretty happy with that overall. The rest of his abilities seem to be the same, which is the pattern we see with all the new S-Class toons, where their 6-stars and their S-Class are the exact same. I guess the only difference that we might see is that the 6-star Malcom has a plus 30% attack, but the S-Class has an updated plus 40% attack. Otherwise, the rush and the active skill are the same. The weapon, or lack thereof, is also the same, so he doesn't have a bound weapon, which opens the door to possibilities. Again, I'm not a huge fan of bound weapons for a lot of characters, because a lot of the time it's hard to build off of them and just costs an increasingly high amount of armory tokens that are incredibly scarce in the game. Now, with these posts from Scopely, I'm always kind of interested to see their examples of team composition, and sometimes it just makes me laugh at the composition of teams. With this team, we're looking at an offensive team that is all yellow toons. When Malcom is a melee lead, you'd expect some mixture between yellow as well as green toons. And because we're not seeing that mixture, it kind of tells the players that they don't think that there are any good enough strong toons for this team. It also tells me that they're only looking at S-class toons, because a team like this would do really well with, say, a Dr. Stevens as well as a command toon. In almost every single attack team that I run, I have a command toon in, because it allows me to have more control over the situation. It also lets me rush faster than my opponent, and the team that rushes the most usually wins the most. Unless you're running Priya with Rampage and double attack, 2 Priyas with Rampage and double attack, then basic attacks are definitely sufficient. Anyway, thank you everyone for watching and listening to my video.